Hey everybody, it's Cliff from Enochian.today, and today we're going to talk a little bit about some additional angels within the Enochian system that don't really get as much attention per se, but they've certainly been identified by other practitioners and scholars and practitioner scholars. And in particular, I'm going to give shout out and credit to Aaron Leach for opening the door here and sort of getting my wheels turning about what else might be able to be gleaned from Enochian once you've sort of done some of the reading and understand the real depth of this system. So let's get started. So the first thing I wanted to mention is we'll start with the Watchtower tablets. Now, this is, to be fair, this system, the Watchtower system is not without controversy because there have been different versions of the Great Table. Some of this has to do with the fact that there's transcription errors and copying errors and stuff like that. But as far as I can tell, this is as close to what the original transmission was. Now, I have the tablets ordered here in the Great Reform table, the Tabula Recensa formation. And here, this would be the Eastern, this would be the Southern, this would be the Western, and this would be the Northern tablets. Now, one of the things that Aaron Leach talks about is he sort of goes through, he's done a very thorough job, and if you look at his Essential Enochian Grimoire, if you look at his Angelical Language Volume 2, and again, there's a reason I always sort of come back to that one, because that's where he's done the very comprehensive look at the angels that are in the initial Enochian transmission to John Dee and Edward Kelley. Now, one of the things that he mentions is that there's this angel that comes up called Gazave or Gazave. And he also mentions that that is not just one angel, but it's actually three angels. And then the fourth one is the combination of all of them. So the Gazave is the combination. And then, as you might imagine, Ga is the first angel, Za is the second angel, and Ve is the third one. Now, they say in particular exactly where they're from, but there's a little bit of confusion if you might go looking for it. So I'm just going to really briefly touch on this. I am working on making these videos shorter and easier to digest, so I've done a little bit of prep work in advance. So the initial tablet, or Great Table, I should say, of the Watchtower system came forward in a very odd numbering system that Dee wrote them down with. So this was his initial system, and it was bizarre even to Edward Kelley at the time. And this is the one part of the system that we get a reformed version later that Edward Kelley just is frustrated. He goes in and he scries by himself asking the angels, and then they give him the changed version. So this is important if you're looking for these and you want to know how I'm deriving these angel names. Okay, so I'm going to use the reformed version, so just be aware of that. But John Dee ordered them as in fire, air, earth, water, which is bizarre. Why would you go down and to the right, up, and then down and to the left? You know, I have no idea why he did this way. So basically, this is the way it is in the reformed version. And he had like this whole switcheroo thing. And unless you play The Price is Right, generally speaking, we're not fans of that. So then it turns out that this was the actual order. And surprise, surprise, it's like you read from left to right and then go down a row and then go from left to right again. So anyway, if you're looking this up and you want to know when I analyze, how to look at where these angel names might come from, and where you might actually look to find them, this is the order that I'm using, and you can look at the rest of this as an exercise. So I wanted to mention too, let me get this light out of the way here, that if you're really struggling with this, it's okay, but the letters that I have here, this is R-Z-I-L-A. I'm just going to use the English equivalents. This is T-A-O-A-D. This is B-O-A-Z-A, and this is D-O-N-P-A. And I'm only showing that so that you have something to orient yourself with in case you use a different system, in case you prefer the original or whatever. but I'm pretty sure this is the way it's supposed to be laid out. And pretty much if you look at the identical, if you try to buy Watchtower tablets, I'm thinking most people are probably going to do something like this. Okay, so with that out of the way, how were these transmitted? Well, Aaron Leach, he just does a great job going over the diaries, and I'm not as deep into the diaries because John Dee's handwriting is really difficult for me to read. And Aaron Leach and other folks, as part of the Magical Review, did a really good job kind of going through this. But the angels Gazava come from 3 different spots on the tablets. And the first 2 spots are both from this northern watchtower Ga, right here, G-A, Z-A. And then the third one actually comes from up top here, V-A-A, right? So obviously we have a template now. Look to the middle part of one row, look to the 4th and 5th letters of the top row of that same tablet, and then switch on from earth to water, in this case, from number 3 to number 4. So switch to the next one and go to the last 3 letters on that one, and you get V-A-A. Okay? So obviously that's just one angel, and there are various powers associated with this. For example, V-A-A is a transplanter of God's gifts. So obviously you might consider talking with this angel or working with this angel to get yourself to move to a better spot for you, right? So this is something that once I reread the powers, I said, okay, maybe this would be a good one for me to call upon in the very near future, because I live in San Antonio, and 0 out of 10, mainly for the heat and for the allergies, which have been really bad, and they're actually pretty debilitating for myself and for my wife. So, at any rate, maybe a good one for me to call on in the near future. Okay, so that's the idea. So I'm just going to shift these down a little bit to show you the rest of how to derive additional angel names from this. So what I've done here is I've made this kind of clear. I said, okay, last 2 letters of the middle row. Middle row is this one here. And by the way, you can, the way I've decked this out, it's basically shows you, but this has 13 rows in all, and this is number 7, so it's the middle row. So the last 2 letters of the middle row, and I've already put it here, G-A. 4th and 5th letters of the top row, that's Z-A. And then the last 3 letters of the top row, next tablet. And this is the actual quote. I'm the last of the first of the fourth. The 4th tablet in this case would be the water tablet. If you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, like you read across a row and then get to the next line. So that's what this would look like. G-A-Z-A-V-A, right? So then obviously all 4 of them together would be, just as you see it, Gazava or Gazave, and you have your angel name. So I've done the rest of this for you, and I'll go ahead and put this in the description. Kipa LPA, so Kipalpa. And if you were to pronounce this one, it would probably just be Olpa, something like that. The next one is Pilanim, or Pilanim, probably Pilanim, probably the short I sound. And then Oladara, excuse me. So you have here not just the 12 angel names going from 3 to 12, but actually from 4 to 16, because there's the combined one. And if you want to get experimental, you want to ask them, hey, can we work together? You could probably have one super name, right? Gazava ki palpa pilanim oladara, excuse me. So that's just one of the things that you can do if you start looking for, hey, the angels themselves introduced Gaza and Ve, they introduced themselves as part of that initial transmission. Clearly within the rest of these, if you follow that same format, not only do you get different angel names, but you get angel names that actually make sense and are easy to pronounce. Kipalpa, it almost sounds like a name you might hear from a foreign language, for example, right? Or Pilanim, right? Pilanim almost sounds like a class of angels, like the Ophanim, or whatever the case may be, the cherubim. And then Oladara, man, it's kind of like a magical sounding name, right? And it's easy to pronounce. It rolls off the tongue. That's usually a clue that this is going to be, that it was almost meant to be discovered like that. So when I came across that, I said, okay, well, let me try that out. And I actually included it in one of my rituals as far as making, requesting the angels to please walk closely with my heart, which was part of like a second 19-day ritual. And that was just something that I did. I'm not going to teach that or make a video on that. So the next thing I wanted to mention was the initial, getting back to the Heptarchy. Okay. So pardon me while I'm looking for everything. I'm always looking for something. The Heptarchy, if you'll remember, has a bunch of angel names that start with the letter B. So let me just rotate around here. So the initial way that this came forward was in 7 tables, and each of these had 49 letters in it. And this one had 49 Bs. Okay. So you would get prince names, and then from that you get prince and governor names, like just as an example, King Baligon, right? So this is review. But if you actually go through here, each one of these individual little cells here, if you go through and you would see something like 1B, 2B, and that's great. But then you got up here and you would see little numbers next to each of these letters that I've written out here. They're kind of small, but suffice it to say, and here again, I'm going to strongly recommend Christopher Whitby's book, John Dee's Actions with Spirits, December 1581. You can see the whole thing. I'll put that in the description, because he actually has the entire table here. And this was no small amount of work. So I'll go ahead and zoom in, and I'll probably make this the actual thing here. And the only problem with this, and it's not really a problem, because you can actually go back to the Tabula Angelorum Bonorum, something like that, and you can actually reproduce what these missing letters here are. So for example, there we go. Here, there's some missing letters. This 75 here is actually 7S. But the point is that when you do and I should have probably, drawn this out in advance, so just bear with me here. But if you actually draw this out and you get a bunch of Bs, but you do all of the way that this whole thing is converted into 7 different sections here, right? You can actually reverse engineer what was written here. Now, why would you do that? That is extra work. Why are you doing that, Cliff? You're killing me, bro. So here's the reason why. Because apparently one of these rows here, this one that I've listed here, is the angel Murai Fry, and I'll just write it out large. Murai Fry. Just bear with me. This angel comes out, right? So this isn't an angel like King Balagon. All of those angels started with the letter B. That's what their names were. So apparently we have another angel within the Heptarchy, and if you go through each one of those rows, some of them have very pronounceable names, like Murai Fry. Another one that I have listed here is I'll just say Vari, right? Same angel, same row, I should say, the counterpart to this one, but it's from a different table. So, oh, by the way, so this is table 2, this is table 3. There are 7 of these in all, and the angels just sort of compressed and made a rectangle out of that square. So this would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and number 7 here, 49 letters. So the point is that we've got the 343 kings plus princes plus governors, and then an additional 6 times 7, 42 ministers for each one of those. So there's a lot, let alone all of the, all the extra work that you can do with the High King and the High Prince Haganel. So I'm bringing this up to you so that to mention that it's not just those angels in the Heptarchy. There's another angel that actually pops out from the transmission, I'm probably zoomed in here. No, I'm okay. That actually pops out during the transmission called Murifri. That is not any of those angels. So you can actually go through and line by line, you might consider maybe starting out going horizontally and then, deriving as many of those angel names as you can. Obviously, if you have 7 rows and per table, and there are 7 tables, you would get 7 times 7, which is 49. The only trouble is that middle table, it's all the letter B. So you would get, minus that number. So you would get 42. 42 additional angels that you might be able to work with. And I'm leaving some of this for you as a review, not because, I mean, I've done the work to a degree, right? But I'm never going to say I've done all the work. Ha ha ha. I'm not the authority on this. The people who are authorities are the people who have done the work reconstructing the system very painstakingly. I'm just noticing the things that the breadcrumbs that they've laid out and trying to explain where you can go with that. So at any rate, 42 additional angels from this massive table, and then an additional, 9 to 12 angels, or 9 to 12 angels if you go through the watchtowers that way. So I'm just laying this out, and I'm trying to, one of the things that I've said I've tried to do with this system is my goal really is to, both explore this system for my own ends, but also to pay it forward and try to lower the cost of entry to this system. And things that I'm bringing up are things that are easy to overlook and things to be like, okay, well, that's interesting. And but if you stop and dwell on it for a minute, you say, wait, there's more here for me to possibly work with. So that's the only reason I'm bringing this up, is to hopefully as an exercise for you as you're continuing your journey, giving you ideas, right? And by the way, notice that I didn't mention you could also use columns here. You could use the columns from that initial table that Christopher Whitby laid out. So probably what I'll do at some point, it is a lot of work, but I'll do the work to try to back translate or to recreate from that tabularum, angularum, bonorum, something like that. The table of good angels, basically. The one where Dee lays out all of the heptarchical angels, and then he goes on later to do the Watchtower angels. But try to do, from that, recreate that initial cross-like table of 7 squares, or 7 7x7 matrices, some of which are squished to be tinier to fit into a cross, because, it's a Christian magical system, but to then repopulate all of those so that I can then lay all those out. I'll probably do that maybe this week, maybe on New Year's Eve, right? But anyway, give it a shot. Work with these angels. If you happen to have a very good scryer, see what they say about their own powers and abilities, right? I mentioned VAA, as being good at transplanting God's gifts. Okay, well, then what is Elpa, or what is Nim, or what does Pi say, All of these things are just there as a review for you. So, and let me know in the comments, go for it. Scry these things. I'm really curious. I'm probably taking the longest possible term approach to this sort of thing, but I really do want us to be able to learn from each other. Someday, somebody else is going to have a massive blog that just sort of takes everybody's experiences and publishes them. All of this stuff is a big effort, but why are we doing this? As a way to help people who need different things, right? Somebody needs to move, call on the angel vase. Somebody needs something else, call on this. Different ways that if you get somebody who's competent in the system, they can have that. And by the way, why even just have a person? Just have a database to look it up. Okay, so I've gone on. These are ideas to think about, like, how can we take Enochian to the next level? This is how. Create the database, combine everybody's collective efforts. Ideally, it would be open source. And, I've asked permission for certain things from certain authors. I'll just say I haven't always gotten it, which is a shame. But anyway, that's it. So again, if you have any questions, reach out in the comments, or you can always contact me for a long question through my blog, Enochian.today, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.